We are back at the G Arena in London for the Hearthstone Spring Masters event, and we've had a long day of Hearthstone. We're coming down to our final one of the day. It's going to be Zozus versus Forsen. Forsen just came off of a 3-0 victory, kind of playing against a crazy little hunter deck. You know, like saying about playing around Betrayal and Explosive Shot, it's kind of a joke a lot of times, but it actually mattered in that last match.
The thing is, I've seen this Hunter deck before. Fake used it against me in the qualifiers, actually the first qualifiers for this event, and he free-hoed me with it because I had no idea what I was up against. And we didn't actually get to see a lot of the other things in it, if they're even in it, but he did have Alex Straza in the build that he played against me, and he also had the Grazilla, the big beast. And I think that's where the synergy with like Arcane Shot and the Wild Pyro comes in, because it buffs that up, and it's kind of like a mini Grommash really, without the kind of the instant effect. But
I didn't see that in 3 games. I'm curious if maybe he trimmed it to try to be a little bit more aggressive. We're going to waste no time. We're going to get into game 1 for this. Zozus versus Forsen. Zozus, his lineup's going to be Rogue, Druid, and Warlock versus Mage, Warrior, and Druid from Forsen. And just early on, I mean, we can see the glimpse of it right here. It's going to be Druid versus Warrior right off the bat, and I have to say, this is a matchup that traditionally has not favored Warrior very much.
No, this is a matchup where Druid is really dominant. It gains that mid-game pressure, which Warrior can't deal with very effectively. It relies on brawls to clear the board, which it only generally runs one of, and traditionally this matchup is very good for Druid, so this is a really good start for Zozus.
Yeah, there is one small point to that I want to make, is that's at times when Druid is playing a ramp version, that's where it really struggles, because in order to get that sort of ramp style, you have to be playing stuff like Zombie Challenge, you want to be playing Sen'jin Shield Masters, you want to be playing Ancient of War, and when you have all those cards, you have to make cuts. So since they're trying to take a defensive posture, typically those cuts are made with stuff like Force Nature and Savage Roar, and that's really why Druid is so dominant in the Warrior matchup. Weapons cost you life in order to take control of the board, and against a deck that has nothing but basically large to mid-sized minions, when you couple that pressure with Force Nature and Savage Roar, that's where the blowout usually happens.
Well, this is it. It becomes a slower deck, and I think Warrior is probably the better, slower deck in that respect.
Yeah.
And whereas the fast route obviously relies on speed, which it just out-aggresses the Warrior. It just runs out of removal Warrior generally to deal with all the pressure. Yeah. But yeah, I think have we got this right? Yeah, so yeah, Zozus is definitely in a good spot here, and I guess this is the deck you want your Druid to beat really, because this is what it's there for. It's to beat the Warrior, get the win on the table.
Yeah, I think this is certainly a fantastic spot for him to be in. I'm a little bit surprised he chose to go with Wrath over the piloted Shredder. I would think that players typically tend to favor developing the board over answering the board, but there certainly is some concern because his development was piloted Shredder or to use Innervate. If he uses Innervate, he's not going to have it later on for maybe bigger Savage Roar turns. If he chooses to use the piloted Shredder, he's looking at Fiery War Axe on the table. He's got to be concerned with Cool Taskmaster on the Acolyte, so on and so forth. A lot of things are coming into effect there. But Zozus, not too familiar with a lot of these guys. I'm sure a lot of people who follow Hearthstone know a lot about Forsen, but with Zozus, he's one of these guys, he came through the open bracket qualifiers, like you said, you played against him. What can you tell us about this guy, his style, and things that he enjoys playing more often, and what would you expect him to bring in a lineup like this?
I mean, Zozus generally is quite unknown within the EU scene, but within the Polish scene, he's very well known, a very strong player. He's also quite renowned on ladder within the scene as well. So against a Mars, we saw him use Rogue, so it's quite an aggressive deck. We've seen him use Fast Druid now, which is also another aggressive deck. So maybe that playstyle is what he goes for when he's playing the game.
And he also play Handlock too.
Oh yeah, that's true. So maybe he's just kind of mixing up his lineup, so it's not just too samey, and he's got a bit of variety.
Yeah, I kind of got the feeling he was just going for familiarity and power decks.
Yeah, definitely.
Just really having strong turns at every step of the way and trying to really leverage the game there. But if you take a look at what's happening here, my gosh, I mean, we say that Druid is typically favored, but look at this board position he's in, and look at how much mana he has in his hand. The Savage Roars are not good to find early. The Cenarius is going to be stuck in his hand for so many turns. I mean, just if you don't count the Savage Roars, he's got 14, 18, he's got 23 mana with his cards in his hand on turn 5. And when this is your play, and see what this pops out, and then maybe follow up with a Druid of the Claw or a Sludge Belcher, you gotta feel a little uneasy about it.
I mean, Forsen's looking really good here. He's got that Cruel Taskmaster. He can activate, say, the Acolyte of Pain, squeeze in some damage, maybe help his trading with that Fiery War Axe. But not only that, we saw the Piloted Shredder from Forsen, which is kind of an addition that Kit Kat's made originally, but it's seen a bit more popularity since Zala? Is it Zala?
Zalae.
Zalae, yeah, Zalae used in ASL, and it's working out really well in this matchup because obviously he has board control now, and this is something that Druid generally has the strength in this matchup. They have a lot of board presence, and Forsen's doing really well.
Yeah, Zalay definitely introduced a lot of interesting things with that ESL event. He actually had Frothing Berserker in his Warrior deck as well, and was taking a much more aggressive stance than usual. He's also a new addition to Team Archon, and certainly a strong one of the better pickups I think that was available out there. But this board position, I mean, when you get this much out of an Acolyte of Pain, you get to use your Fiery War Axe to keep up the tempo. He can even play Deathspite this turn just to make sure that he has open mana for stuff like Sylvanas on the turn after that. He's just got all the options in the world, and this has sort of been a trend that we notice time and again. The player with more options is typically the player who has the advantage.
Exactly, and I think playing this Deathspite wouldn't be too bad because, like you said, he frees up some mana for next turn, but you're also opens up for some good trading next turn. Obviously, we see the Sludge Belcher in the Druid's hand, but if he has the axe ready, he has the option to clear it quite easily.
Yeah, he's also got Shield Block, Shield Slam too. Now, I think there is merit to not playing it this turn because something like Harrison Jones is going to be in your mind.
Yeah, exactly.
Not only that, but you do give your opponent the information that, yes, I do in fact have a Deathspite, and is that worth foregoing the mana later on in order to play it in favor of now? And he's certainly taking into account both of those factors when he's choosing to armor up here instead of using the Deathspite.
It's the less aggressive play, but I don't think Forsen is in a position where he needs to be aggressive. He's so comfortable right now. Like I said, he's got all these options in his hand, so he's quite flexible now. He can think, well, you know, I can deal with this in many ways.
Gosh, the Key for the Grove just came down too, so Sylvanas is sitting right in the hand afterwards.
Yeah, that's pretty rough.
Yeah.
I mean, if he drops his Sylvanas now, I mean, he might not. I mean, he doesn't really need it yet. Yeah. But now that keeps out the way, he knows that he's going to need to draw another one. So the threat of Sylvanas is being increased.
Yeah, so you see the armor up actually coming into fruition here too. He's able to get Deathspite on the table. He utilizes his Shield Slam, all of his mana for this turn. He protects his 2/1 and his Armor Smith, and gets a Deathspite with 1 charge on the board, going into an 8 mana turn. This is just like the dream for Warrior in a position like this. He's at 29 HP. Like, this feels so bad for Zozus very early on, and I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that he just didn't have a ton of early aggression options. And when you couple that with his Piloted Shredder was his, aggression play, he's facing down Fiery War Axe and Acolyte of Pain going into that turn, and then he also drew 2 Savage Wars.
Top deck in the Ancient of Lore was really good for him. It's probably one of the best options he had because he can recharge his hand, but Forsen's just so far ahead now.
Just so much. This Ragnarok shot could, oh my, that is like basically all but closed this game right now. And not even mana for combo, so he can't even clear the Ragnaros.
Drawing those Savage Draws early just really hurt him. They cards you kind of want to draw into later, and we can see now the Warrior, which we've just said at the start of the game, you know, it suffers against this matchup, and all of a sudden this Warrior is cleaning up the Druid.
Yeah, that's part of the Druid plan going into it in general, though. It's a very high power deck, but it does have some consistency issues, and that always can come back to bite you.
Exactly, and he draws another weapon. He's just drawing removal after removal. He has the Grom ready for when the Sludge Belcher goes. He has a Rag in play, which can't even be dealt with yet. Yeah. So he's going to have to wait till turn 9 to use maybe the Force of Nature Savage Draw combo. Yeah. But some Druids traditionally now run 1 Force of Nature to squeeze in other things, like more tech cards. So
that also helps you, like, cut down on some of the consistency issues too. You know, drawing 2 Savage Wars obviously can be very painful. Drawing 2 Force Natures can also be the same.
Exactly.
This is the first actual awkward turn from Forsen. Everything else has been so clean up until this point. And if he wants to silence his Belcher, he's going to have to lose his Owl to do it. So he's turning the Owl into basically 2 damage onto the Sludge Belcher token here. I imagine this weapon's going to be going into the Sludge Belcher.
And he gains a bit of armor too, so that's not too bad.
Yeah. Sylvanas for sure going to come down. And so he's going to float a mana, not the worst thing in the world.
Not in this situation.
Warrior will often float mana, and it's in favor of having just so many strong turns. 8 damage to the face. How does he get out of this? I mean, he's got a Force of Nature this turn, right?
And he just drew the Harrison a little bit too late. We do see the weapon.
He's right on time. Yeah. See, like in the movies, like Jones always was right on time. Like even when it seemed like he was late, he would turn it to his advantage. If this was like the movies, he would still have a weapon in play.
That's true, and unfortunately, he's going to have to use this Force of Nature to clean up. We don't know if he does have another one yet. We might see, we might not. But
either way,
this
is dire straits. We're looking at he's dropping 5 more life to do this. I mean, this is 1 damage off lethal for Forsen right now, which, I mean, it just seems... well, it's not 1 damage off lethal anymore. He's going to go ahead and close this one out. So stop spamming those emotes in chat. This is done like dinner. Game 1 in the books so quickly But this is like the bad falter spot that happens.
Exactly.
And I think Forsen's really happy to get Warrior kind of out of the way against this lineup because he's looking at facing a handlock and he's looking at facing a rogue. And I think two of those matchups, you're not disappointed to face Warlock, but you're not happy about it. And Rogue is just been consistently looking like it's such a bad. It's a good matchup for Warrior, but it's like you want to beat the ones that are really bad for you. Like to get the Druid out of the way instead of having to beat a Rogue or a Warlock, I think that's kind of a sigh of relief.
Well, this is just an excellent position for Forsen because the Warrior, which traditionally has a bad matchup against Druid, is gone.
Yep.
And that's excellent. You can't ask for anything more than that. This was quite an unusual game for us to see, where this Warrior was just so dominant, and I'm pretty sure that Forsen's very happy right now.
Yeah, Pilot and Shredder being the only early aggression certainly hurting that one. I'm curious how much the difference would have made if that was Chill and Yeti instead, which is definitely falling out of favor. Pilot Shredder is definitely a better card. Game 2 is going to get underway, and it's going to be Rogue versus Mage.
So Zozus has changed his to the Rogue now. Maybe he's feeling the fast Druid didn't really work out for me. Let's try something else. Let's try and get a win on the board. And Rogue is certainly a deck that can do it. And we see it against Mech Mage, and Rogue can have a really good time against Mech Mage if it draws the right removal at the start of the game. And we see some good removal cards in his hand right now.
Yeah, this is definitely a pretty solid opening hand. We'll get this game feed up for you.
And there we go. There it is.
Yeah, these two pretty solid hands, I would say. Mad Scientist is not. I don't think it's like your favorite lead in the world, but is Mad Scientist ever a bad lead?
No, not really. I mean, you get the free card from the Mirror Entity, and the free's not too bad. I mean, at the start of the game, you'll be able to trade efficiently. Maybe not have to use one of your mechs, which have synergy with other cards, like we see the Goblin Blast Mage, for example. Maybe able to hang on to his Frostbolt if he wants to. So it's just such a good tempo swing card for him.
Having another Mirror Entity in hand, I think it's going to hurt a little bit.
Yeah.
In this matchup too, Rogue, most of the time you're going to get something like a 3/3 from it. But Zozus happens to have that Blood Mage in his hand straight away.
True.
And this seems like this could be like one of those games where the Rogue just has everything go their way, and they can kind of get every step of the way. Not sure how I feel about Dagger up here, but when he's daggering up, he's obviously looking forward to all his other turns. He's got Deadly Poison, SI7 Agent in the future. He's got Backstab that he can couple with his Blood Mage or with his SI7 Agent. There's so much pressure is being built. And to go ahead and get the Dagger out, make some use out of the tempo of that, I can definitely see that. But I certainly wouldn't have minded to see SI7 Agent last turn. Just pick off the Mad Scientist, start getting your board going.
But if he had killed the Mad Scientist with the SI7, he would have got an SI7 in return from the death roll because of the resolution?
I'm not sure how that works, actually. We did see something like that.
Yeah, we saw something earlier, yeah. Because if you kill a Mad Scientist with, say, a Fire Elemental, you get a Fire Elemental.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah, it's a weird kind of resolution within the game. I don't know whether it's working as intended, but...
This is why I want a comprehensive rulebook.
So perhaps I would think he'd want to deal with the Mad Scientist without having to use the Battle Cry of the SI7, because obviously he doesn't want it. He doesn't want to get that. He wants him to get the Blood Mage Falnos, like you said, because it's just not as effective.
It's curious. I guess this is going to be a Fan of Knives turn. No, he's going to go for SI7 Agent. I mean, you gotta get rid of this Mech Warper somehow. If you have the ability to remove a Mech Warper and get something on your board, that's like the sweet spot. And now
we see the Blast Mage.
Yeah, I mean, I would just go for it, I think.
5/4 in stats, 4 damage. When it comes into play, you can't ask for much more.
The question is he has the option to just go for it and see if he can rip 3 points of damage onto this SI7 Agent, but he also has the option to just run in his Mad Scientist first, grab the Mirror Entity out of his deck so he doesn't draw the second one, which would just be a nightmare. This is, of course, assuming he runs 2, which I believe he did. But
most of them do these days.
I feel like this play... Oh my gosh.
The last one.
That could have been so I saw the first 3 and I was like, no, don't tell me! He would have been 0 for 4 on that Blast Mage.
So what do you give him here? Do you give him the Blood Mage? And
I think you got to. Like, you don't want to give him the Earthring Farseer for sure.
I mean, you get a Fan of Knives after this. It does too. It doesn't quite clear the Goblin, which is a bit annoying, but you do clear the Blood Mage that you just gave him, which is not too bad.
You're also throwing off his mana a little bit. You know, going into turn 5, it's not irregular to see a Mage play a second 4-drop. And so I think what he's really hoping to fade here is something like something like a Spider Tank into a Hero Power. But he's got Mirror Entity as well.
That's true, and seeing Dr. Boom's the card you want to draw with Mech Mage around this point, because you're going to be playing it soon, and it's such a big swing for a mech, for any deck really. If you're behind, or even if you're ahead, you drop Dr. Boom, and they go, the sigh comes out.
Just so much value.
So we just played the Mirror Entity and pinged. So yeah, I guess that's fine, because the Mirror Entity is a clunky card in your hand. You want your Scientist to fetch it.
Yeah.
So he's got board control. There's no challenge right now. So this was perhaps a good time to chalk that Mirror Entity out. And
the big story there is he's really got to get rid of the Blood Mage. When leaving that on board allows him to utilize so much from it. Like a 2-mana 1/1 that gives him spell damage and draws him a card when it dies. It's like, I hate killing it, but you have to.
You just
it's
have to
too
do
much.
it. And there's no silences in either deck, well, traditionally anyway.
Yeah. Silencing that one too, that used to be like a seriously good play, and sometimes it still is. It went down. It's gone down a little bit though. Just seeing at how many different threats there are along the whole step of the way. I mean, Piloted Treader even is a
big threat. Yeah,
sometimes.
exactly.
And not that it's playing in this match, but stuff like Pilot Sky Golem, Sylvanas obviously is a big target on its head. Not that Rogue runs these cards, but in some of the other matchups, Blood Mage has fallen really kind of out of favor in other classes because, and the reason it's so good in Rogue is because they play so many damage spells. But still, just one of those cards I always hate having to kill.
I think that's kind of like a pre-Nax thing, because before Nax came out, the Death Rattles weren't as many choices to silence, and then Belcher came along, and then Undertaker came along when he was really powerful, and then we've got a lot of GVG Death Rattles, like you said, the Shredders. So yeah, maybe his value as a target for silence has just dropped as more cards have come out.
Well, this sprint could pick up a Blade Flurry.
Ooh, that's good.
So definitely some gas needed, but he's going to be facing down a Dr. Boom next turn, and looking at his hand, if Sap is your way to deal.
Oh, hang on.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I actually kind of like sapping here and trying to just, give yourself every single little edge. Because say next turn, your opponent's plays like Piloted Shredder and then another mid-sized minion, you can really clean up with the Blade Flurry after that. And I think when you're facing down something like Dr. Boom, you're really just going to have to chalk it up to this is kind of painful. But if he keeps the dagger around, he's got Eviscerate to go along with his Blade Flurry. So going to be taking a lot of damage from it, but really no other way around it. So he's going to go ahead and Blade Flurry this turn, and I can't disagree with this. He's saving himself enough damage as it is. And then just when he sees the Dr. Boom here, he's going to just, oh my gosh.
Sigh, yeah.
What on earth?
I mean, the play you just suggested would have been good if he had an awareness that Dr. Boom was there, because, like I said, he could have cleaned up so much more. He had the Eviscerate, and he would have the Blade Flurry. That would have killed Dr. Boom clean, but obviously he didn't have that information. And do you play around it? Do you let that board live and play some of that board live and take that damage and play around it? That's the kind of assessment he has to make.
He'd have to have so much more life.
Exactly.
I mean, that's the other issue too. He doesn't really have the time to be playing with his life total that way. If he's at 26, sure, but if he's at
14, for example,
if he's at 18 going into sapping a Shredder with 400 points of power on the board, it becomes so much more scary.
We do see the Farseers there. They might be able to come out if he can stabilize. Now he's got some healing come in. He's got 2 saps, so he's got a way to kind of stop the aggression.
The problem with stabilizing here is his way to get rid of Dr. Boom is a sap.
Yes.
If you sap Dr. Boom, they're getting 2 more Boom Bots.
Exactly.
And if the Boom Bots... Oh, he's got the Mirror Entity on the board too, by the way.
So
let's
he gets
not
even
ignore
more
that
tempo.
one. Yeah, so he gets even more stuff on the board. But not only... When he makes the second set of Boom Bots, remember, if the Boom Bots die in combat, they deal on average 7 damage.
Exactly.
And when you're giving them a second one of those battle cries, I wouldn't really consider that dealing with Dr. Boom.
It seems like just damage control here. Heal up as much as you can. Maybe see a prep, sap.
I mean, he has to sap it, really. It's just... I mean, he can't afford to eat that shot.
Yeah,
he's got to hope the Boom Bots just all run poorly.
It's just not something you want to sap, because, like you said, you just get more damage from the Boom Bots, and Mech Mage is going to be happy with that. It's free damage as far as he's concerned. But we do see some more options in Forsen's hand now. We can, well, I think just Dr. Boom's pretty much great
There
here.
are options, but there really aren't that many options.
So he's going to see what he can clean up with the Boom.
Oh my
ouch.
gosh, that is such a brutal roll right now. I cannot imagine not playing Dr. Boom here. Wow, are you serious? Are you for real right now?
Dr. Win, just play him.
Dr. Win.
So he goes with the ping, he gets a save clear here.
Casino, right? Vegas. Dr. Win.
Yeah. Right, yeah. Uh-huh. So this is still really good.
6 extra power on the board plus the spare part. 2 time reversal. I wonder how many Boom Bots he could make before he actually has to kill his opponent.
He has 2 time rewinders. Make as many as he wants.
Yeah,
the low fab's fine. He gets to kill the 4/4 as well. He gets to stop spells, because one thing that might be going through his mind now is fireballs. Are they there? Are they gonna?
Well, they're there. They're
certainly
there now. I don't really. If your opponent has burned at this point, I just don't really think you have much of a way to play around it. You're facing down the damage from it. He's just got to get something on the board. He really doesn't have an option other than load them. He just has to hope that a couple swings from this can get it back in the game.
Exactly.
But knowing that Dr. Boom is there, I think this was closed out based on Forsen's curve, and how strong he was able to kind of scale into late game.
So he basically just frees that, so he has no chance of coming back now.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of a single card that in his deck. I mean, he could just draw Deathwing here and have it cost 9 mana.
Exactly.
From that Warlock 0 mana cost card bug.
Oh, here comes the BM.
Still really wouldn't work that well.
And that's quite smart. He's locked out the Tinkers, so he can't trade with the
well,
Dr.
he's going to hope this works out. He can technically live. So if both Boombots hit the Loatheb, but it's not going to happen. He's down to 1, though. I mean, he did live that turn. I'm still kind of impressed that he cleared the board and lived that turn. Oh, no.
Do you know what? I had a feeling he was going to do this.
Oh, no, Forsen, don't do it. Oh, God. He's going to take game 2 here. 2-0 lead now.
He's really far ahead.
Mech Mage, I think, is one of those decks that actually typically will struggle against Rogue too. I think it's one of the reasons why Rogue came so much into favor was because it started beating these aggressive decks again. When you see decks that kind of have really sticky minions on the board constantly, Rogue, I think, will tend to struggle a little bit against those, but sort of against these mid-range efficient minions, when they get stuff like Backstab, SI7 agents, when they get those good Blade Flurry turns, I feel like they have a really good chance to put up an argument. But I think in that game, just not seeing something like Violet Teacher, not really having the minion action to keep going afterwards. He had all the spells in the world, but his minions were really only 2 Earth and Ring Farseers. And then, of course, later in the game was the Loatheb. He just didn't really have much to go in the early game, it seemed like, and Forsen's draw was so strong, and then having the boom on 7 plus all the burn, I mean, what can you do?
It's like you said, the Violet Teacher would have played a big role in winning that game because Mech Mage doesn't really have an efficient way to deal with all the tokens apart from Goblin Blast Mage. And if you can reduce the amount of mechs that are on the field with your backstabs, with your eviscerates, and other such removal cards, you can control the game that way while generating more tokens. But he just didn't have these options available to him, which is ultimately what probably cost him the game. And obviously there's Dr. Boom coming out, having to sap it, which was just so unfortunate for him.
Yeah, I also have to say, like, the Mirror Entity triggering, we did see when Goblin Blast Mage had killed a Mad Scientist, and the Mirror Entity activated, off of the fact that the Goblin Blast Mage killed a Mad Scientist, I was like, whoa, I was blown away by that. And if he didn't coin out the SI7 agent because of that interaction, that actually makes a lot of sense. But it seems weird to me that it would function that way.
Yeah, I don't know if they've actually written any explanation why it functions that way. Is it I don't think it's a bug. I'm told it's working as intended. So he did play around that option of him getting a free that early, like turn 2. If he had coined out the SI, you would have got a free turn 2, turn 3 even. Going into turn 3, could almost if he did decide to go with that play.
Yeah, a lot of different things could happen in that game, depending on how those Mirror Entity triggers work out. So you might want to test that before you head into a tournament, so that way you know all your stuff. I certainly am going to be testing it the first opportunity I get. So we're going to wait for Game 3 to get underway. As soon as these players are ready, we're going to be bringing you to the game. But, Forsen, he's got one deck left to win with. And it's Druid.
It's the Druid,
yeah.
And this Druid's that type of deck that can just clean up everything.
Yeah.
It's such a strong deck. It's one of those decks that if it draws well, it hits really hard. It's really hard to deal with. So I think what Zozus is probably trying to decide now, how do I beat this deck? Well, 3 times.
he's got to beat it with Rogue. He's got to beat it with Druid. He's got to beat it with Warlock. Game 3 is going to get underway between these two players. Forsen is on match point.
So the Mulligan comes out now. We see a Molten Giant, Shadow Flame, Void Caller, and Sludge Belcher. What would you keep here?
Probably none of these.
Just throw it all away?
I think I'm fishing for Twilight Drake and Mountain Giant and kind of hoping to dodge my opponent's Silver Bullet style cards.
But we just saw a Molten Giant and a Void Caller. So is this have Mountain Giants as well? Is this kind of Zozus' creation, kind of the mixture?
This is where I should have paid a lot closer attention earlier to figure out exactly what he was running. But when I see something like Ancient Watcher, that is really kind of more of an indicator to me that he could be running something like Mountain Giant. And Molten Giant may just be in here. That's definitely a possibility. But if he's certainly got something like Twilight Drakes. It's just such a strong play on turn 4 when you're going to be live tapping very often. So I would just anticipate all those cards being in there. And kind of looking at these draws, really the big story of this one is how Forsen is going to be able to utilize Black Knight and Keeper of the Grove. Oh, and now he's got a big game hunter. So he's got a lot of tools at his disposal. Not a very strong start, but this is one of those matchups where Druid doesn't really need a ton of aggression early rolling to beat this matchup. It just needs to be able to kind of go toe-to-toe with all the big threats that Warlock can throw at it.
And we see the Black Knight and we see the Big Game Hunter, which will do exactly that. And not only that, I think the Black Knight inclusion is an interesting one. It's kind of a card that's fallen out of favor in some decks. You don't see it a lot in Fast Druid. You tend to see the more techie cards like Khazad Mystic to deal with Hunters and Harrison Jones Mind Control tech. So it's interesting that he's decided to go with that, and we see an Innovate Ancient of Lore to draw even more options to deal with this board.
Definitely one of the better ones to get out there. There is coin in a Siphon Soul available next turn.
Oh, we see the Mal'Ganis.
Yeah, he's going to go ahead and go with the Moral Coil. I think I like the Moral Coil play a lot better than the Siphon Soul play, simply because I can get the Void Caller on the board. I always mix up those two, Void Caller and Void Walker.
This Void Caller can do a lot of work if it gets that Mal'Ganis down, but we do see the big game Hunter.
Well, we also see a Sylvanas
and a Sylvanas.
And that Owl got used, and maybe a little bit prematurely. Now there's potential for whatever that Void... Oh my gosh, that is a huge draw right now. He just completely... That was like... The thing that could have completely turned this game in Forsen's favor was quite literally this source of play. So Mal'Ganis is going to hit the board. Forsen does have Big Game Hunter for it, but he doesn't have enough mana to play Big Game Hunter and play Black Knight, which I'm certain is something he wants to look forward to.
But he also gets the Belcher as well. So not only did he set up a taunt, he set up the massive minion which protects him, which won't make much of a difference right now. But he gets, if it gets Big Game Hunted, it's a shame, but he still has Giants to come.
Yeah. Can you imagine not Big Game Huntering this Mal'Ganis right now?
No, it's just going to get shot in the face by the little dwarf with the rifle. But he's wondering...
my weakness! A guy with a gun!
So what else do you play with the Big Game Hunter? It's most certain this is coming out.
I think there's some reasonable arguments for silencing here or just dealing 2 damage. He really just has to get something rolling so he can keep consistent threats on the board. Because at this point, this is one of the key turns of the game where you can put Warlock on their back foot by having these kind of Silver Bullet style answers. So even though the Sludge Belcher is really contesting this Big Game Hunter very well, Hero Power plus the Keeper is going to contest that back. Lotham's going to shut him out of spells this turn, but another big minion's going to keep all that stuff rolling, and he's got Wrath to follow up on the 2 points of damage from that Keeper Grove. So we've lost our connection real quick, so we're going to get that loaded back up for you as quickly as we can. Apologies for that. Sometimes technology likes to do that sort of stuff to you. But like I was saying, Forsen just, kind of one of the ways that he falls into a win is when he has those silver-style bullet cards, he's able to utilize them really well, and Druid can just kind of pull ahead, and Warlock starts to just run out of threats at a certain point.
And that Black Knight would have played a big role in that, because Black Knight in a Sludge Belcher is not a big deal, but Black Knight in an 8/8 is a massive deal, because all they have is swipes to deal with it, and it takes 2 swipes to kill a giant on its own. So being able to Black Knight it is just huge. Yeah, so that's what I think the Black Knight's going to end up doing. He's going to wait till one of these giants come down, it's going to get taunted, and then it's just going to die.
Yeah, I definitely think that's a high possibility. He's even got Dr. Boom in his hand. That's what he drew last turn. All right, that Molten Giant is not a Warlock card. Ignore that. When that gets played,
but it is in Warlock at the moment.
When that card gets played, we're going to have to, again, this is something else has been happening today. We're going to have to probably restart the client there. It's been freezing up a little bit. When you see this bug occur in the spectator mode, it's pretty rare, but...
it's been happening a lot today specifically.
You just got to roll with the punches, man. That's how it works.
I've only ever seen it once or twice. Once in my own event, maybe once elsewhere, but today it's just cursed us. The Warlock curse.
I'm curious if he's... I guess he doesn't really have a way to utilize his mana other than the Wrath and the Dr. Boom, so it's probably just the best way to go ahead and get it done. But now, the pressure now is really being felt by Zozus.
Exactly. This Dr. Boom was such a curse for him last game.
Oh my gosh.
He's
got the Shadow Flame in his hand.
This is it.
This might be kill everything. He might have to clear this because right now he's at 17. He's staring down the face of Savage Roar. This could potentially be a really, really bad turn. Not only that, but just looking at Forsen's hand, we can see that he has Force Nature and Savage Roar. If these Boombots hit for just enough, but not too much, he can't even go back beyond that. And actually, he's only got 9 mana, so if he chooses a Shadow Flame with the Mountain Giant...
that's it.
Yeah, he can't taunt up after that. So if the Boombots deal 3 damage, then he's going to be able to close it out. He's actually going to Innervate, so he's got 15 damage. I don't really see...
a way out of this.
Yeah, the Boombots they have to hit this Defender of Argus, I think.
It's such a tough turn. You kind of have to go for it, but he must be thinking in the back of his head, am I killing myself right now?
Yeah, he definitely could. I'm assuming one of the things that he actually wouldn't have mind happening is the Boombots stealing. Oh my gosh, they deal just enough. That is incredible. Wow, and Forsen going to have to go in his turn. Let's see what he picks up. Scenarios just going to be like, okay, so we're going to have to restart this game real quick. Sorry, apologies about that, but again, this is just kind of how this stuff works a little bit, is you gotta be ready for these little tiny bugs. They occur, but we just roll with them. We can kind of tell what's going on with Forsen. Looks like Cenarius was going to come down that turn. And again, continue to threaten Savage Roar. He wants to force his opponent to continually have to answer his cards and then use that pressure to be able to build into just an unstoppable board position.
Exactly. And we did actually see the other Shadow Flame in his hand. He might be able to utilize that to clear the board again. But it seems like Zozus is just playing on the back foot here. He's just responding. He's never given him a chance to set up his own board, really.
Well, it looks to me like he top decked a Sylvanas there and was able to Shadow Flame and steal that Cenarius foul. But again, Forsen just keeping the pressure on, making sure he's getting an advantage at every single step of the way. Azure Drake and Swipe, just another threat that Zozus has to deal with.
So this is where we're going to see the Black Knight come into play, I think. He's going to tap, he's going to play these giants, he's going to armor them, he's going to taunt them up. And, he only plays one, so even then it's...
No, he's got both giants in the
board. He's got both giants. Okay.
So Black Knight definitely big impact. Oh, jeez.
Another Savage Roar.
Is that... I mean, that's getting really close to the overwhelming advantage point.
I think Forsen's in a situation here, if he decides to go for the Black Knight, he could Savage Roar and use his face, because is he really under any threat right now? He's just always got board control.
I think he's just going to silence and start attacking.
Or just silence? Oh, yeah, silence, of course,
I mean, that's...
I didn't see
thumbed over. You could see that he had thumbed over the Keeper of the Grove, so that's certainly something he's thinking about. But I really don't mind the Savage Roar. And use your face to clear. You're going to take 15 points of damage. But again, handlocks, and in particular these kind of hybrid demon lock handlocks,
going for it.
Are not going to run the same kind of burst that they used to. I mean, this is ancient history at this point. But Leroy Jenkins' Power Overwhelming and Faceless Manipulator used to be in here to have this big in-game burst, and they have sacrificed that for the sake of consistency. And
it's just gone to a more control kind of orientation, healing, just keeping in the game until you can basically overwhelm your opponent with minions. And he did actually go for the play, which I said, which is interesting, because you obviously had another idea, which you can just start putting on more damage, more threats. And if he actually had gone for the play you'd suggested, he would have been able to set up lethal, because there's no other taunts.
Yeah, he can't know that, of course.
Of course, yeah.
So something he's got to be thinking about. Shade of Naxxramas is an excellent draw right now, because the one thing he needs is a threat that can't really be targeted. So outside of something like AoE or more taunts, once again, Zozus is just going to be under the pressure of Force Nature and Savage Roar. It's what he's been worried about the entire game, and Forsen continues to have threats at every step of the way.
We have a lot of healing coming up now. Antique and Farseer. That's a lot of greedy healing for a hand-locked deck. Maybe he's just running one of each, just a bit of versatility. The Earth and Farseer is very good for obviously trading very early on in the game.
Yeah, I think when you're playing a Demon Lock variant, it makes a lot of sense to be playing Earth and Farseer just to make sure that you can keep threats on the board, because so very often your demons are just going to run into their minions.
So he taps and he heals. Okay.
Yeah.
So he did draw the Doctor Boom. That will help if he can survive.
Actually, hang on a second. So he's got 5 plus 4. That's 9 plus 14. He's got 23 damage. Is he really 1 damage off of lethal right now? Tell me it isn't so. So he'll make 3 tokens. So we'll have 2, 4, 6, 8 plus 3.
Yeah.
That's 11. And then he's got 10 damage from the Savage Roar, right? Oh, he's got 12 damage from Savage Roar because he's got himself. Yeah, it's 23 damage. He's 1 damage off lethal right now.
So healing was right, and he even tapped. He was even brave enough to say, "I'll tap. I'll see what I get. I'm gonna live."
He needs to find something to keep his board position fortified.
Exactly, and I think
Wrath is excellent right now.
So he can just keep on cleaning up. He might decide to
draw.
draw.
Yeah. Well, it makes a lot of sense to draw because your hero power is just, you want to put it probably into one of these minions. And again, you just want to keep the gas going. Oh, there's a swipe.
So he's going to be able to close out this game one or another.
He's dipping really low on life, though. Forsen's going to drop to 10 here. Wait a minute. Oh my gosh, I think Forsen just killed himself.
He just killed himself because of the Doom Guard.
Wait, he's going to... Oh, he just traded too. Wow, that's so on point. So he's not dead yet. Mountain Giant. I mean, that's pretty much a banana right now. That card's definitely not coming down before Dr. Boom is.
So that was a very clever play from Forsen.
Yeah.
He played...
Really.
Did he play around Doom Guard?
He's probably playing more around something like Hellfire Dark Bomb, or trying
Perhaps,
to anyway. It just happens to also play around Doomguard. So wow, he's gonna life tap. I think he has to life tap.
Just to see, he needed an enabler, like he needed Argus or something.
Yeah, he's just got a Doomguard. I think Doomguard's one of the only ways he stays alive. He loses the Jiraxis too.
So that will keep him alive because it won't be enough with just the. Keeper of the Grove.
Forsen's got 18 right now. This may be a turn he goes for, though. He's seen a ton of heals come through. He may just be inclined to use his combo. He's not going to.
No, he can just swipe.
He's going to take it slow. I think the Sludge Belcher could have influenced this a little bit, but making sure you swipe this off the board, keep yourself at 10, make sure you don't die to something weird.
Exactly.
You don't know his exact list, so there's always the threat of like some crazy burst combo that you just couldn't handle.
And he gets a zombie chair, which is just useless right now.
He's got a life tap.
Oh, he's almost out of
gosh,
cards
I didn't
as
even
well.
realize that he was down to one card in his left.
And the BM starts coming.
It always starts right then. Forsen's got combo though, and he is going to take this match very decisively, 3-0, and just I'm not sure that we saw Forsen really make a mistake in this series.
Blackout was talking to me the other day.
Look, he's even going to Savage Roar first. Oh gosh,
just
so
for the
brutal.
BM. Well, Blackout was actually saying to me, Forsen's been working hard to prepare for this tournament. I don't know how much truth is in that, but the results are showing. He free'd his last. He free'd Fake. He just free'd.
Oh my gosh! Zozus. He even risked losing his extra 2 damage there by trying to PM extra hard. Wow, that is just.
And Forsen looks very happy there.
I mean, a BMing Forsen is a happy Forsen. That's just kind of how it goes. But yeah, I actually can kind of attest to your practice. We have a chat that we're all in and kind of talk about stuff. He's always asking about strategy lately, and he's really trying to push himself. And I think what's happened is Forsen has got so many like round one knockouts. He's got some second place finishes, and he's had good placings, and he's a very strong player, but he hasn't really been consistent. And I think something along the way, maybe it's starting to notch at him. He's like, you know what? I can compete at this game. I know I'm good enough. I'm just going to buckle down, and I'm going to start beating people. And today has been a fantastic performance for him. And in this match in particular, again, I don't think that we saw really one spot where you could even consider most of what anything that Forsen did an error.
No, he played exceptionally well today, and he even made an error on purpose just to BM his opponent.
That one is an error. Don't risk not being able to kill your opponent for the sake of some flashy plays. That one was an error, but don't. Maybe for Forsen it's not an error, but for you out there, that's definitely an error. Don't do that.
And yeah, like you said, Forsen played exceptionally well today, and obviously you've been saying, you reinforced my statement about the practice, about the preparation, and it's paid off. We've seen it today. He's just cleaned up all his opponents. He's going to go into day 2 with a strong start, with 6-0. He's not lost a game yet. Yeah. Going into day 2, that's just such a confidence boost for any player to be able to go into there and I just beat everyone,
Yeah.
Bring it on.
And of course, that being said, got to feel a little bit for Zozus. It's not exactly the best draws ever. I think his rogue draw was okay, but his druid draw was definitely subpar. And in the handlock game, missing on turn 4, that's always kind of a brutal one. And then you walk into a Black Knight with Mal'Ganis, walk into a Black Knight with one of your taunted Molten Giants. I mean, it's just such brutal stuff when you're on the receiving end of that.
And as we said at the start, Zozus is a player coming into the scene. He wants to push himself to show that he's a good player in Poland already. It's time to be a good player in the EU, and it's coming to these events and qualifying for these events, which will eventually give him the push he needs to start getting results and start getting consistency. And it's just about showing up, having the experience, because being at a LAN and being in front of your computer and playing in a tournament is 2 different experiences. So he's got work to do, perhaps, but he still has opportunity, and he probably has the passion to continue and become a good player.
Opportunity is really what you can ask for, and you got to make the most of it from there. Again, with your preparation and with your practice. We're going to take a look at some of the matches that we have prepared tomorrow, and you guys aren't going to want to miss it. It's going to start at 10 a.m. GMT. For those of you out there, if you're too lazy to Google it, I feel sorry for you because that's just a few keystrokes away. We actually moved a couple of matches from today to tomorrow due to scheduling issues. We're going to start off with 6-0 versus Nyria, and Zozus, of course, he's not out of it. He's got a chance to still make something for himself. Drop down a game, but he can still come out of groups. And so that's something he needs to put this loss behind him, really focus on tomorrow. But we got plenty more Hearthstone coming tomorrow as well. I mean, Amaz versus Fake is going to be up there. Nyman versus Tom. I'm really looking forward to seeing more of Nyman. I think that he is just, like, when you take a look at his first and second places respectively in these first 2 qualifying seasons of 2015, and he's doing it with Hunter, and not just like random Hunter decks. He's got all kinds of Hunter builds that he's been tinkering with. Really looking forward to that. Tom, one of the best Taiwanese players that's out there. He's here for this event, and again, $7,000 up for grabs. Everything is on the line for these players. They don't want to leave anything on the table. It's all coming out tomorrow. Yeah,
we got some exciting games, and we're leading with 6-0 and Nyria, so that's going to be an excellent game to play. Top form at the moment. 6-0 just grinding that tournament scene, getting results. Nyria, who's proven he's a very strong player, and he always plays some really interesting control decks. I find when I see Nyria, excellent games coming for you guys tomorrow. So make sure you tune in, get up early, start watching these games. So it's going to be a really good one.
Brackets are going to be tweeted out, and you can find those at Gfinity. Also, if you have any predictions or comments or feedback you'd like to leave, we definitely want to hear about it. So again, at Gfinity on Twitter, you can reach him at Aquablad HS, and at myself at That's Admirable. For everyone here at the G Arena in London, we'll be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. GMT. You're not going to want to miss it. Guys, have a good night, and tune in tomorrow.